Please like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, and please press the bell icon so that you get to know when my latest video has come. And to learn more and to find a video relevant to you, please do check out my videos list.
Hello, namaskar and adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. Many times we look around us and we find there are people who seem to be very lucky. Everything seems to be clicking for them, and we also think sometimes, how can somebody be so lucky? These people could be somebody who we know, maybe one of our friends, one of our relatives, or maybe a sibling or even a spouse, where we feel that these people seem to attract luck. The first interview they go to a high profile company, they seem to get the job. They date good looking people, they get good breaks in life, they work for good companies, they get good raises, they get promoted, and all good things happen to them. And sometimes when we analyze our lives, we feel, what have I done wrong? Why am I attracting these challenges and one after the other? And we try to look into various facets of our life. We try to look into whether we are failing in our preparation, whether we are failing in how we are able to approach a situation, or our decision making is wrong. And we try to analyze it from various perspectives, various angles, various paradigms. And sometimes we do get the answers. For example, we may think that, okay, I am not as educated as somebody else or as qualified as somebody else, so maybe that could be the reason. Sometimes the reason could be that you made one or two wrong turns at the start of your career, and because you made those wrong turns, so to come back on the right track takes some time, right? So there is some reworking on those decisions or correcting some of those decisions, which takes time. So we understand that as well. However, sometimes we think that more or less we have done everything right, yet we are not getting the right results. Now, what happens when you're facing an ailment, a chronic ailment, and somehow with all the tests you're doing, yet you're not able to understand what that ailment is coming from, where the disease is coming from? Then when you go to an expert, a specialist, the specialist tells you to run a plethora of tests and to dig deep down to understand and find what the challenge is, where the challenge is. And many times after multiple tests and a validation test, then we find out what the actual problem is. Now, of these problems, the most toughest of the tough problems are which are related to hereditary or the genetic diseases, because we are not able to do much about them. It is as if that you are born in this particular family who have a history of diabetes, so you will also get diabetes, or a history of heart ailments, so you will also get those heart ailments, or they have a history of, say, Alzheimer's, so you will also face it. And so there we can't do much. Is there something similar in our horoscopes, where at a most genetic level something is the most destructive of ailments ailing a horoscope, which we are either not able to find out or point a finger to, or we just don't know how to understand or how to find the most destructive ailment in the horoscope? Now, these, out of many ailments which can be destructive, the most destructive ailment in the horoscope can be bad nakshatra, which is spoiling the entire energy of the horoscope. Why the nakshatra? Because the nakshatras are the most finer elements of the horoscope. They are the finer divisions also of a certain sign, because each sign, you know, has minimum of 2 nakshatras, and in fact it has roughly 2 nakshatras and maybe a pada more. So we know that roughly 3 nakshatra energies influence a certain sign or a certain house in a horoscope. Of these, 2 nakshatras will definitely be the most influencing one, and out of these, 1 nakshatra will be a nakshatra which will lie wholly in the sign, if not more than 1. So we know that the nakshatras are at the finest level or at the genetic level or the genetic material of the horoscope, and hence the nakshatra in which moon lies become very, very important, because whichever nakshatra the moon lies at the time of our birth, that nakshatra's lord, that Lord's dasha starts as the first dasha in our life, which means it is the critical nakshatra in which moon is placed at the time of our birth, because that is the starter point for our lives. And we know that the lord of a dasha also shapes our lives, especially at the start of our lives. And so how we are shaped, how we are programmed, that's how we end up being. And so the dasha in which we are born becomes the most important dasha. I have also made a video on why we are born in a certain dasha, so please see that video, which will throw more light on why you are born in a certain dasha, and that will give you some more idea of why you are born in a certain dasha, how your life is being shaped. Because of knowing that, you will be able to lead your life better, because there is more clarity in the path that you are supposed to take. So please do watch that video, why we were born in a certain dasha. Now, if nakshatras are at the most genetic core of our horoscopes, and is there a certain nakshatra which gives us very good results, auspicious results, and is there a nakshatra which is the cause of all the destructive forces in the horoscope, and how do we find it? Firstly, the nakshatra is not good or bad just because it is deemed as good or bad in the zodiac system, or through our shlokas, or through our astrological books. For example, generally we know that Rohini is a good nakshatra, we know Pushya is a good nakshatra, we also know that Shravana seems to be a good nakshatra, or is known as a good nakshatra, Swati is a good nakshatra. Now, some of these nakshatras, seemingly good nakshatras or auspicious nakshatras, are in fact ruled by most malefic of planets. For example, the Swati nakshatra is ruled by Rahu, and so it should not always be deemed as a nakshatra which is ruled by only a benefic can be a great nakshatra. In fact, Vishaka nakshatra, which is ruled by Jupiter, is one of the most malicious of nakshatras and can be a very destructive nakshatras in our lives, especially if moon gets placed in the nakshatra, or that nakshatra becomes the ascendant nakshatra. So we should not be misled by that if a nakshatra is ruled by a benefic planet, then the nakshatra will give us good results, and just because a nakshatra is ruled by seemingly malefics, it will give us destructive results only. Or because a nakshatra is known to be an auspicious nakshatra, it will give us good results, whereas a nakshatra which is known as a malicious nakshatra will give us tough results. Of course, a good nakshatra or an auspicious nakshatra tends to give us better results most of the time, whereas a malicious nakshatra or malefic nakshatra will give us or cause challenges in our lives. However, a nakshatra which is influenced in a certain manner through the most destructive of forces, irrespective of what planet it is ruled by or how auspicious it is deemed as, can still give you the most challenging of results and can become the most destructive nakshatra in your horoscope. Now, how do we find out which is the most destructive nakshatra in the horoscope? Firstly, 4 nakshatras become critical nakshatras in the horoscope. Firstly, the nakshatra in which moon is placed at the time of our birth is an important nakshatra, which is also called as the Janma nakshatra. Secondly, the nakshatra in which the ascendant lies at the time of our birth becomes the second very important nakshatra. Third, the nakshatra which rules the 4th house becomes a very important nakshatra. The reason being is the 4th house is the house of our domestic peace and mental happiness, and also all the auspicious results that we get from a prosperity perspective, from a material perspective. So the 4th house is one of the most critical houses. So the nakshatra ruling the 4th house is the one which rules both a peace of mind and a happiness, and so that nakshatra becomes very important. And the 4th nakshatra, which is the most important nakshatra, is where most of our planetary forces are concentrating their energies on, either by virtue of aspect or by virtue of placement. So if there are 3 or 4 planets placed in a certain sign, then the nakshatra which is ruling that sign, or at the degree of the ascendant, the degree of the sign at which the nakshatra lies, that nakshatra becomes the most important nakshatra. Or if a certain nakshatra is aspected by 5 or 6 planets, then that nakshatra also becomes a very important nakshatra. All those 4 or 5 planets may not be placed together. For example, Saturn can aspect the 10th house while placed in the ascendant. Jupiter can aspect the 10th house while placed in the second house, and so on. So they need not be together, yet they could be all aspecting the 10th house. So then the 10th house becomes the very important house, and the nakshatra which is ruling the 10th house becomes the most important nakshatra of the horoscope. So out of these 4 nakshatras, if there is any one nakshatra which has the most malefic of associations with it, by virtue of either negative or malefic planets placed in them, or ruled by malefics which is malefic to the ascendant lord, or having some doshas associated with them, as well as by virtue of aspects or conjunctions, then that nakshatra becomes the most challenging or the most trouble-giving nakshatras in the horoscope, which can make a life destructive as well. So firstly, how do we find that nakshatra? Firstly, see if the nakshatra in which moon lies, how many malefic associations does that have? Because any nakshatra which has more than 3 malefic associations can give you tough results. Out of these nakshatras, if there are 2 nakshatras which have similar, the nakshatra which has more malefic energies concentrating or accumulating or influencing it becomes the most destructive nakshatra. So if in the Janma nakshatra, the nakshatra in which moon is placed, if it has any malefic associations by virtue of a malefic ruling that nakshatra, plus a malefic place in that nakshatra, plus if a malefic is aspecting that nakshatra, then by virtue of 3 malefic associations with that nakshatra, then it becomes the most challenging nakshatra. If there is a certain house in which 2 or 3 planets are placed, then the nakshatra which rules that particular sign in which that house is, that nakshatra, if it is influenced by 2 or 3 malefics by virtue of planets being placed in that, planets aspecting that, or the ruler of that nakshatra itself being a malefic, then that nakshatra can also become a challenging nakshatra. On the other hand, if the ascendant nakshatra that is ruled by a malefic planet, plus it has aspects of malefics on it, or there are malefic conjunctions associated with it or doshas associated with it, then too it can give huge challenges, huge problems. So try and find out of these 4 nakshatras, which is the ascendant nakshatra, the moon nakshatra, the nakshatra of the 4th house, and the nakshatra where most of the planetary forces seem to be concentrating the energies, which of these is occupied or the most challenged of nakshatras. That can become the most troublesome or the most destructive of nakshatras in your horoscope. So generally 90% of the time, one of these 4 nakshatras will become your most destructive nakshatra in the horoscope, and these will give you most challenging results also. Now, how to validate which one of these is the one which is the most destructive one, especially if you find that more than one of these nakshatras is being influenced by malefic forces? Then see, try and find out when was your most troublesome of situations in life, and which was the dasha and antardasha during that time, and during that time were there important transits, especially of Saturn, Rahu or Ketu, and where these transits were going over. Say for example, in the dasha of Venus, if you find that the nakshatra in Venus lies, that nakshatra is ruled by say Saturn, and during the dasha of Venus or during one of the antardashas of Venus, when you face the most trouble, you also have malefics like either Saturn or Rahu or Ketu transiting over the set sign or house, and there are any associations of a dosha also connected to that house, then it's more or less given that that particular nakshatra is the most troublesome nakshatras for you. So the dasha and antardasha and the transits, these are the telling factors for you and identification factors for you which nakshatra is giving you the most challenging of results in your life. And it is important for us to understand and know these. Let's take the example of one famous personality who rose from absolutely being down in the dumps and rising to become the king of his country, becoming a dictator, one of the most powerful people, one of the most loved people by the Western world, and then ending up being hanged because of his misdeeds. I am talking about none other than the king or the dictator of which is Iraq, And the dictator or the king that I am talking about is Saddam Hussein, who was hanged to death after being prosecuted by a public court. Let's look into his horoscope and find which was the nakshatra which gave him the most challenging results, which became the most destructive nakshatras in his horoscope. Now, according to records, Saddam Hussein was born on the 28th of April 1937 at 8:15 a.m. in the morning in a place called Tikrit. His ascendant was that of Gemini, but his Mercury was placed in his horoscope in the 12th house with Ketu. Now, his ascendant nakshatra is Mrigashira, and which is the planet which rules the Mrigashira nakshatra? It is ruled by Mars. And how is Mars placed in the horoscope? So firstly, his ascendant is ruled by Mrigashira. Mrigashira is ruled by Mars, and Mars is placed in a very strong Angakaraka yoga with Rahu in the sign of Scorpio and in the 6th house, which means the ruler of the ascendant nakshatra Mrigashira, Mars, is in a bad dosha, is placed in a bad house, and is placed in a tough sign compared to the ascendant, because Scorpio sign is a malefic sign for Gemini ascendant native. So the sign Scorpio is a tough sign, the 6th house is a tough house, Mars is a malefic, strong malefic for a Gemini ascendant, and Mars is lying in an Angakaraka dosha with Rahu, that too in the 6th house of inimical forces, and Mars is retrograde in his horoscope. And the other is the planet Ketu, or the mathematical point Ketu, also lies in the Mrigashira nakshatra in the 12th house itself, and that too in conjunction with the Lagna Lord itself. And hence, while he got great results throughout his life, in the end he was hanged during the dasha and antardasha of Mars and Mercury, especially with Mars and Moon both lying in the nakshatra of Anuraga, which is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn also aspecting the 12th house and aspecting the Lagna Lord. So, in the dasha of Mars and the antardasha of Mercury, the ruler of the ascendant nakshatra and the Lagna Lord, Saddam Hussein, was hanged publicly to death, and hence the Mrigashira nakshatra, which is also the ascendant nakshatra, became the most destructive nakshatra in Saddam Hussein's life in his horoscope, and that brought an end to one of the very controversial figures in history, especially in the Middle East. So friends, this is just one example which I have used to tell you how to find out which can be the most destructive nakshatra in your horoscope and which may be the one which is causing you the most challenges. You may be looking at a dasha or antardasha of a planet which is placed, not placed well, which is placed in a tough nakshatra, which is placed in a bad dosha, or placed under the aspect of malefics, without actually giving attention to the nakshatra which is the troublemaker, and the nakshatra lord, by virtue of being associated with the nakshatra, being lord of the nakshatra, is also creating challenges or troubles during the dasha and antardasha or during the transit of that planet. So look into your own horoscopes and see if you are facing challenges regularly again and again, and there are certain challenges which you are not able to fathom why you run into those challenges. For example, challenges with relationships, challenges in career, challenges with health, challenges with your children, challenges in good luck, challenges in attracting good finances, challenges in becoming famous or getting credit for your work. So if you, in all these areas, you find that you are not able to get the answers and you run into one challenge or the other, or one problem after the other, which are more or less unexplained one, and you are not able to understand them, then look into the nakshatras of either the ascendant, or the nakshatra of where moon lies, or the nakshatra of the 4th house, or the nakshatra where most of the planetary energies are focused, and then see whether that nakshatra is becoming the most challenging nakshatra of the horoscope, and the ruler of the nakshatra, by virtue of its dasha and antardasha or transits over important houses, that is playing havoc, or the planets placed in the nakshatra or aspecting the nakshatra by association with the nakshatra, they are causing challenges in your life. And so that one nakshatra becoming the most destructive nakshatra is inducing other planets, is inducing other dashas, is inducing other antar dashas to create havoc in your life and to become the most destructive energy in your horoscope. So try and identify that and try and remedy them through donations of that particular planet, working in the line of relationships which are associated with that planet, or doing better or be doing service, selfless service in the direction of the ruler of the nakshatra and ruler of the house, which also rules the certain that particular nakshatra. And you may find that you may get better relief and you may attract better results, if not immediately, then over a period of time after putting up enough energy in that direction of remedifying a particular challenge and the particular challenging nakshatra. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the links given below. Until some other time with some other video, this is your friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.